Finally, relevant talk. Where you hold the microphone. America's first competition talk show. You're in the hub.
I got a little change in my pocket. Good day and welcome to the Hub. I'm your host, Joel Aaron, joined all this week by Steven, Michael, Brooke, and Chad on the program all week long. A little later on in the segment, you'll hear from Brooke and Michael in a face-off debate, which you can post your comments in the comments section of the YouTube video. We'll let you know next Wednesday who won the face-off debate. So there's a little bit of campaigning that may go on in this process. You never know. They're building a mosque, a $100 million mosque within 2 blocks of the World Trade Center bombings in New York City and Manhattan right now. It was just approved by a 12-member board commission where half the names, I think, were Islamic, and they agreed to put this thing up. But the problem is that there aren't a lot of Muslims in the area. I mean, they've got a Christian center and a Jewish synagogue and all this, but that's serving an enormous population of Christians and Muslims. They say this is to build and foster rapport in the community there, but who are they serving? What's the point behind this? Leak, you got to have an opinion.
Well, and I think the problem here is that what we've seen said over and over and over again from Muslim groups here in the States is, well, we're not all bad, but they never do anything to combat the voices of radicalism in Islam that we do consider bad. And the real issue is that I don't see how building a mosque creates understanding if you don't take action to change the underlying behavior. If you don't have Muslims turning in terrorists and providing information, building a building and throwing that sort of thing in the face of New Yorkers doesn't create understanding. Being in your face doesn't create understanding. Being part of the solution is what creates understanding, and part of the solution is to turn in terrorists.
Well,
and I don't see these same Muslim groups who want to create understanding and say we're not all bad, encouraging their parishioners, their congregation,
but let me
to
throw
turn
this,
in terrorists.
Yeah, let me throw this out to Brooke, though. I mean, from the flip side of this, you've got this Imam Faisal Abdul Rauf, who would be the head of the Cordoba initiative, which is this initiative to put it up. He'd also be the imam who's speaking at this mosque quite a bit. So he's got a little vested interest in the $100 million facility. But he's the one that says, the project is intended to foster better relations between the West and Muslim. So I guess you can take it to an extreme. You've got a lot of folks who survived 9/11 attacks, and they're saying, I don't want to see this every time I go to honor the dead, every time I go to Ground Zero. I don't want to be reminded of this. But at the same time, you can say, what's the alternative to fostering better relations? I mean, I think we get along better if you cease to exist.
I think the biggest problem is that the burden of accommodation is always on the side of just your average American who were also the recipients of the most extreme act of terrorism on our soil. So it's frustrating because you're like, wait a minute, the burden of proof is actually, in my opinion, on their side. And what we're doing is we're the ones overcompensating. We're the ones trying to accommodate and make this space welcoming for them. When actually, really, in my opinion, it should be the other way around, that there should be building blocks. It shouldn't be that you have this property next to Ground Zero and whoo, there goes a mosque. It should be a slow process where they go into the community and they mingle and there's a period of healing amongst everyone. Not just this we're throwing a mosque right next to Ground Zero. And candles.
We need candles to heal. I mean, how do you foster better relations between these religious communities in Manhattan? Because you're in a bit of, you're kind of locked in there, so to speak. I mean, is it pluralism? Is it like postmodern cultural progressive is post that? Something like ism?
Look, melting pots are. Yeah. Melting pots are a myth. You're always going to have cultural groups eventually gravitate toward each other because, quite frankly, it's less effort to understand someone who's a lot like you. That doesn't mean you don't reach out to other groups, but you hang out, you socialize according to the 80-20 rule with people who are just like you, and that happens just within philosophical bents. Conservatives tend to socialize because who wants to make every social engagement a running gunfight with someone with a different ideological bent?
It didn't work for Hamilton. Yeah. But I mean, okay.
So, and the other side is just that to Brooke's point, was the onus of open-mindedness on Germany after World War II, or was it on the rest of Europe? No, it's Germany that had something to prove. No one was sitting there in Western Europe saying, well, the war's been over for 2 days, so it's your job to be open-minded. No, it was Germany's job to de-isolate themselves and prove they could be part of Europe again in a constructive manner. So why are we following a different paradigm
that's
with Muslims in this
certainly
country?
I mean, that's opening a can of worms, something to chew on. Now, Brooke and Michael are going to have a little face-off debate, and the topic this week, want to tee it up now, is Bill Clinton recently found a way to pay off Hillary Clinton's campaign from 2008, and he's doing this by raffling himself off to, I guess, the highest bidder right now. The bids are just streaming in left and right.
For beef?
Well,
for sandwich meat?
Little piece here and there.
Sorry.
Take a piece. So the question is this really him just recognizing the value of capitalism finally to pay this off, or is he just foisting her debts off on the American people? Your opinion, 90 seconds on the clock, 45 seconds per person. Ladies first. Brooke, go.
I mean, I think it's the typical liberal response or liberal way of doing things is to capitalize on something like you said, capitalism. To use capitalism, it's because all of the other solutions that seem like would be viable are for everyone but us. So for them, capitalism is great, it's wonderful. So let's go ahead and do it in this scenario. And let me just generally raffle. Can you imagine the response there would be if this was coming on the other side? It would be cheap, distasteful. It would be all of these things, a form of prostitution, all of that. And so I just think it's frustrating. I think it's frustrating to watch something this.
Yeah, so basically capitalism is a little thing we like to call a crutch for, I don't know, success. Michael's got 45 seconds on the clock for rebuttal. Go.
Well, the thing about capitalism is that liberals, they use it to their advantage. They become successful, they get a lot of money, but then they tell the American people, you know what, we know how to use this capitalism thing, but we're not so sure you can, so we're going to take care of things for you. And this is another example of that. Bill Clinton is using capitalism and its principles to be successful. And ironically, he's selling himself, which reminds me of his days in the White House when he did something similar with a young intern. So interesting how things work, that double standard with liberals.
She was just, it's a teachable moment. She was young and impressionable. She's now less impressionable. So, beautifully. All right, so Michael and Brooke, it's just basic degrees of capitalism. Who is more capitalistic in this debate? Post your comment in the YouTube video. We'll tell you who won next week on the show. See you tomorrow on the Hub.